Social facts which cannot be detected with the five senses are called non-material social facts. They are more abstract and exist in the minds of individuals which make up a particular subculture. A much simpler way to describe this is to say that non-material social facts are the norms and values of a particular social life. Non-material social facts can be expressed in a variety of ways. Collective representations, for example, are ways in which a society reflects on itself. In the Sioux Falls metal scene, one kind of collective representation is the meanings assigned to the objects chosen to represent this subculture. People in heavy metal subculture wear black t-shirts to send a message to the rest of society. This message is a non-material social fact associated with Sioux Falls metal. Black has been labeled by society as a negative, angry, or sad color. Therefore, people who wear primarily black likely feel one of these negative emotions. Metalheads are usually characterized as angry towards the status quo of society. Figureheads can become a collective representation for a subculture. Musicians such as Ozzy Osbourne, Ronnie James Dio, and Dimebag Darrell became legends in their own right, and the way they live their lives becomes the definition, so to speak, of what it means to be a metalhead. For example, Dimebag Darrell was murdered on stage during a concert. The terrible loss of his life made the metal community rally around his memory, and he became the poster boy, so to speak, of how to live a heavy metal life. He was known for his antics and his passion for metal music. He became a role model for many other metalheads. It is not the people themselves, but the legends that live behind them that becomes a non-material social fact.
Last December, heavy metal band Damage Plan took the stage at the El Rosa Villa. During their first set, more than 200 anxious fans packed the concert hall to hear the group and one of the country's most known guitarists, Dimebag Darrell Abbott, play. But just a few minutes into their first song, trouble broke out. You can see shooter Nathan Gale in a black jacket and baseball cap charging on a stage and pulling out a gun. He was headed straight for Dimebag Darrell, the band's lead guitarist. The crowd, shocked, unbelievably didn't move. Someone on stage cried for help.
Call 911, somebody!
While Dimebag Darrell lays on stage with band members, even fans trying to resuscitate him, there's chaos. Police say minutes after Gale shot Dimebag, he takes a hostage and reloads his gun behind a speaker. In a matter of 5 minutes, Gale fired 15 shots before Officer James Niggemeyer took him down with one single shot. A single shot that saved lives. Moments later, Officer Niggemeyer steps in front of the camera, shotgun in hand, a blank look on his face.
Collective conscience is the totality of beliefs and sentiments common to the average members of the same group. The collective conscience of Sioux Falls metalheads contained the idea of individuality and being yourself as a mantra to live by. They felt this is what heavy metal stood for, and yet they respect the individuality of other subcultures as well.
I think most metal people are just trying to make themselves happy. You know, they just make music for themselves. It's not like pop where you're trying to get on the radio and be famous or, you know, blow up or anything. You just do it because that's the kind of music you like. You know, that's probably the message, I think.
Metal is really about being yourself and freeing yourself to be open to accepting things you wouldn't always accept.
I think it's totally individual and unique to each person. You know, it's just like life. You experience your life the way that, you know, through your own perspective. Everyone has their own perspectives. The things that we share in common are bands that we like, music that we like, things that we like in the music.
It's like being yourself, like, I don't know, because it's so different than any other, like, pop music and stuff. It's all about breakups and all that kind of stuff, which there's some metal music that's about stuff like that, but I think it's just be yourself, and everybody goes through the same things. And
good question. A lot of it, I think, is mostly just about, you know, just be who you are. You know, don't be afraid to speak your mind. I mean, be yourself. That's what I get out of it. A lot of people have a lot of different ideas about the afterlife and religion and, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, you know, just enjoy it for what it is, but don't be afraid to be who you are at the same time.
Like I said, metal's pretty broad. It depends. If you're very political, there's a lot of political bands out there that are talking about the government and or bashing the government, either way. Otherwise, it's more of a feeling. Whatever you feel at the time, it's a good way to express yourself without seriously injuring yourself or injuring another person. It's great stress relief.
Be strong and be who you are, I think.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good way to sum it up, I'd say.
Have a good time with the things that you like, and if it happens to be metal or what have you, get it done and do it right.
The rest of the
Take
world.
no shit. Don't eat shit.
Please
Don't
eat
serve
shit.
people shit. That's really it. Don't take. I think that sums it up the best. Don't take no shit. I mean, just don't take shit from anybody. Do what you want. Don't listen to what the radio tells you is cool.
Liberation.
Okay. From what?
Public, social, like, agenda, you know, like people are expected to do this and that, but to me, metal music is the way that they can express themselves in something out of standard.
It's all authority attitude, like you want to be, and everybody's a part of it. It's such a community of people that are into it and like support each other in this one cause of like wanting to be their own person, I think, and to express themselves. And if anybody gets in the way of that, like it's like fuck you. You know, that's seriously what heavy metal kind of means to me.
It seems that metalheads have embodied Durkheim's concept of the cult of the individual to the T. The cult of the individual, as Durkheim describes it, is the idea that in order to avoid egoism and modernity, we must hoist the idea of moral individualism to a sacred level. We must encourage and accept people's individuality and recognize that without others' individuality, we cannot pursue our own in order for society to function. Metalheads prize this idea very much, and it has become the core philosophy of heavy metal movement, at least here in Sioux Falls. They recognize that everyone is different and in their own way, and it is important to respect and acknowledge that difference. The fact that metalheads embody the cult of the individual further supports the notion that heavy metal music is a cure for enemy and egoism and modernity, and not simply a symptom of societal illness. Social currents are another type of non-material social fact, and can be described as consciousness of consciousness, or sets of meaning that are shared by the members of a collectivity. Social currents are relatively short-lived and only show themselves while people are in social interaction with one another. For metalheads, social currents erupt during moshing.
It's an outburst, really. A built-up volcano of energy that just explodes. I mean, you feel that initial, that rush, that excitement, the dopamine. Feel that and just seeing the people, you know, in that one particular moment in time, spiritually. We're all connected. We're all connected, and nothing can harm us. You know, nothing can take us down. You have that feeling, that sensation of invincibility and unstoppability.
You feel the song to the point to where like you just gotta move. That's kind of what it is, you know. Like just any genre of music, if you feel a beat, you move to it, you know.
There's just a certain part of a song that really, you know, that I've always really liked. If it hits me, you know, I get pumped and I'll just feel like going around, you know, pushing people around, getting pushed around, whatever. I don't.
Just like a switch that gets flipped sometimes. You just gotta
Same thing that makes you want to headbang. You can't headbang any harder. You'll just go jump in the pit.
You know, I think it's just the heaviness of the music just, you know, induces the moshing. You know, it's not, rarely will you see people doing what they do without that soundtrack. It just won't happen, you know. It's just like in movies, you gotta have that soundtrack there to evoke emotion. So.
It's so hit and miss, you know. I mean, whoever starts slamming into you, just start slamming back and have fun with it.
It's a feeling that you get. I mean, for everybody, it's going to be a different thing, you know. I mean, Maybe one certain part of the song is the part that you liked the best and you weren't gonna mosh, like, oh, that's happened so many times to me. I'm not gonna mosh, you know, because I don't know, sometimes get banged up and bruised up. I'm just like, hey, you know what, I'm drinking my beer, I don't feel like it. And then the music hits that one certain spot and you're just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm putting the beer down, I'm going in there, at least for a little bit, you know, whatever. And yeah, it does happen. It's just one of those things. And it's one of those things that you can only do when you're at a metal show. I mean, you certainly can't just mosh, you know, in the grocery store.
Well, it depends. Sometimes it's random. Sometimes the vocalist of a band may say they want to see some moshing, in which the crowd usually will deliver, just because they only need about half an excuse.
So, okay. Do you ever get like a particular feeling instead of like a blatant, like someone telling you to do it? Or did you?
Probably for certain kind of rhythms that are known as breakdowns, but I try. It's hard to say that for sure, because there's a lot of bands that just don't use breakdowns. It's just, if it's more frantic parts also maybe may trigger it, but it just kind of seems to happen.
All right here in
really.
town.
Yeah, the music's
It's up to the crowd.
It's up to
You can tell them to mosh, and
the
if
music.
they ain't feeling it, they're not gonna mosh. You can tell them to circle pit, they're not feeling it. You know, it's up to the crowd. It's whatever you're thinking and what kind of feeling you're getting from it.
I would say for me it's when a song has a really good beat, it's really distinct, or I'm just really enjoying the music. That's for me personally. That's when I would start, when I really want to get into the music. Of course, there's always the times when people get it started for you and you just join in.
They yell, everybody skank.
Yeah, sometimes it's the breakdown of the song. You know, if it's Angel of Death, it's the you know, it's just, I think people kind of all, for the most part, are kind of on the same page there. I mean, you kind of know when it's usually kind of the breakdown of the song or something, you know.
It's not really, it's kind of really up to whoever really throws the first elbow, man. Kind of whoever's out there, you're sitting there, you're jamming to the tune, and then all of a sudden, the first dude throws an elbow or shoves the dude next to him, and then it just kind of starts.
I think it can kind of be spontaneous, or definitely a lot of bands these days call it out, like this is the part of the song where, you know, when we count to 3 or 4, you know, this is when you should start circle pitting or moshing, but it's kind of either way. Otherwise, some dude in the crowd might just start doing it by himself, and like, you know, it kind of escalates.
Moshing becomes a release of energy for many people. They are trying to free themselves from the pent-up anger and stress they carry with them in everyday life. During moshing rituals, a social current erupts. All individuals in participation are experiencing the same consciousness of the release of negative emotions. Social facts are the framework which lays the foundations for subcultures. They are the rules by which these groups exist. Social facts answer the how of subcultures. The next section will answer the question of why. Now that we know what makes up a subculture, we can answer the question of what is its purpose. Subcultures are social outlets that allow us to plug in and experience a heightened emotional state or collective effervescence. Durkheim used the term collective effervescence to describe the experience of being entrenched in social interaction with others. Human beings are social animals. In a way, we are addicted to social interaction. Without it, we suffer. Collective effervescence then is the high which feeds our addiction. It is a powerful social energy which all people strive to experience through social interaction. Durkheim described the nature of collective effervescence in his book, The Elementary Forms of Religious Life. Totemism is the religion of not certain animals, men, or images, but of a kind of anonymous and impersonal force that is found in each of these beings, though identical with none. None possess it entirely and share it. This force is so independent of this particular subject embodying it that it both pre-exists and survives them. Individuals die, generations pass away and are replaced by others, but this force remains ever present, living and unchanged. It animates generations today, just as it animated those of the past, and will animate those to come. Broadly speaking, we might say that it is the God worshipped by every totemic cult. Only it is an impersonal God, without a name, without a history, immanent in the world, diffused throughout a multitude of things. In his examination of the religious forms of totemism, Durkheim came to the conclusion that people in general misinterpret the experience of collective effervescence for something supernatural, and that is how religion is born. He believed that when people came together and worshipped a chosen God, they assigned the heightened emotional state they experienced to emanating from their God, when really what they were experiencing is the feeling of being in a collectivity with others. It is simply the power of the social. This experience is not only found in religion, but in all cultures and subcultures where people come together in social settings, even the Sioux Falls metal scene. When asked to describe the experience of going to a very good metal show, interviewees gave a variety of examples of this collective effervescence.
It's more of just an entertainment aspect. It's kind of like going to a movie. You're going in there expecting to escape from life for a little bit and just get entertained.
There's definitely a difference, you know. It's like you can be sitting at home listening to a CD by yourself for the first time, you know, and
it's just when you get to go and see your band and the bass is thumping and it's just like a million times louder. It's just so much better than, you know, listening to your CD on your way to work or whatever.
The biggest thing for me is the fact that I don't have to think. I can just enjoy it, and there's not a lot of music styles that allow me to do that. So if I'm at a really good metal show, I can just stand there well, I guess we don't really sit. Stand there, listen to music, move the way I want to move, and it's just a certain type of freedom you don't really get anywhere else.
The live shows are awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot more energy than just popping a CD at home. I honestly probably won't pop in a CD at home and just sit there and headbang on the couch by myself, you know what I mean?
I do sometimes.
What's wrong with that? Occasionally, but...
I watch myself in the mirror and flex a little bit.
It's true.
Hanson, shut up.
Seriously.
I don't know, it's always nice to share, you know, share that energy. I mean, you just feel good when you have buddies that, you know, relate to the stuff that you like.
I prefer to listen to music with my friends versus by myself. I kind of feel like, I wouldn't say bored, but it's a little bit kind of dull.
Metal shows are different. I mean, everybody's like a big family. I'd rather hear recorded than live, but I prefer the feeling of a live show. Just the presence of seeing everybody and watching how they're playing and what they're doing and being around friends.
My personality is kind of out there and in your face, and it's the one place that I can, it's the one place that when I'm up on stage I can be that person. And I could be that person, I can be in your face, I can be loud, I can be crazy, and people applaud me for it. Whereas if I do that in the general public, they call the cops and want to have me arrested.
It is because an experience is best when it's shared with others of like minds.
Release of energy. Yeah, you feel really good, I guess, because everyone else at a show is there for the same reason you are. You feel like it's a big community and you feel really welcomed, and like you could say or do anything you want to do and you wouldn't be judged or cast out or anything like that.
Oh, you just write in the music. Yeah, just write in the music.
Nothing.
Might as well. It's like planting roots in your ears through fucking musical
It's
sound frequency.
Yeah, they're live. They're just playing it with their bodies as humans, and it's just projecting right there. It's not been recorded, so you're right in there with them. And
There's a difference. Like I think at a show, you're gonna probably express more feeling at the show because it's live and it's more pure than hearing it through
in your
a recorded
it's more physical
speaker.
as well.
Yeah, more physical. Yeah,
That's better. It's more physical. You can get more involved in it. But
Hey man, can you feel your legs? No, me neither, man.
what?
Never mind.
Yeah, it's kind of the
Hey dude, crank up the fucking Pantera on the way home.
Good call.
Screaming at each other in the car on the way back.
Yeah. No, it's kind of sensory overload, so I think there's less part of your mind that's, you know, operating towards thoughts and feelings. You know, you're just, and that's great too, you know, the great escapism factor for music. You know, there's way more dangerous ways you can, you know, get into escapism. I think music's a great way to go, and I think the whole range of stuff that you can kind of get out of your system with heavy metal is just, you know, like I said, it's where it's at.
What all these people are trying to describe is collective effervescence. However, collective effervescence requires more than just people acting collectively. There are some very key aspects besides collectivity which create a moment of collective effervescence. The equation is as follows. You must be plugged into a subculture, add it with collectivity, add that to ritual, and then you get collective effervescence. In order for someone to experience collective effervescence through metal music, one must be a metalhead and prescribe to the subculture of metal music. They must attend metal concerts and shows. Finally, they must practice the rituals associated with going to a metal show and enjoying yourself in order to achieve this heightened emotional state. In the case of metal music, it would be moshing or headbanging or throwing up the devil horns. Syncrecy is the key, and music helps to foster this feeling as well. It becomes a reflection of the people engaged in the social interaction. Durkheim describes it as, by shouting the same cry, pronouncing the same words, and making the same gestures to the same object, they become and feel as one. As people become further entrenched by music, it amplifies the collective feeling, and the rules of everyday life fall away. Durkheim continues with, the very fact of assembling is an exceptionally powerful stimulant. Once the individuals are assembled, their proximity generates a kind of electricity that quickly transports them to an extraordinary degree of exhalation. Every emotion expressed is retained without resistance in all those minds so open to external impressions, each one echoing the others. The initial impulse thus becomes amplified as it reverberates, like an avalanche gathering force as it goes, and as passions so strong and uncontrollable are bound to seek outward expression, there are violent gestures, shouts, even howls, deafening noises of all sorts from all sides that intensify even more the state they express. Probably because the collective feeling cannot be expressed collectively unless a certain order is observed that permits the group's harmonious movements. Those gestures and cries are inclined to be rhythmic and regulated and become chants and dances. Further, he states, the effervescence so often becomes intense it leads to unpredictable behavior. The passions unleashed are so impetuous they cannot be contained. The ordinary conditions of life are set aside so definitely and so consciously that people feel the need to put themselves above and beyond customary morality. These words speak to the idea that in the confines of everyday life, it would not usually be acceptable for metalheads to mosh or headbang because they are restrained by the expectations of the greater society. The conditions of collective effervescence must be met in order for these behaviors to be acceptable. Some cultures, including the Sioux Falls metal scene, revolve around collective effervescence, and it is out of this experience that social facts are born. The reason band shirts and tattoos hold power as material social facts in the Sioux Falls metal scene is because the abstract experiences of collective effervescence are imprinted on these physical objects. Every time someone puts on their favorite band shirt or sees their tattoos, they are reminded of the collective effervescence they experience in relation to those objects, and are given a quick high, if you will. Without continual instances of collective effervescence, however, the power given to these objects would fade away. Without the collective, there is nothing. These physical objects allow people to partially recharge themselves until the next time they can experience collective effervescence. Durkheim also describes this phenomenon. This image is bound to take on an exceptional importance in people's minds. Placed center stage, it becomes their representative. It is the only concrete object to which felt emotions can be attached, and the totemic symbol continues to recall those feelings even when the assembly is dissolved, for survives, engraved on those instruments of cults, on rocks, on shields, and so on and so forth. For the followers of totemism, totems were their material social facts. Durkheim describes how these physical objects become the representations of non-material experience. And so the cycle of collective effervescence creating social facts, and social facts sustaining collective effervescence, is the fuel which keeps the fire of a subculture burning. The biggest problem with subcultures is that people of different subcultures cannot experience collective effervescence together. Since they are plugged into separate outlets, it makes it harder for them to relate to one another and even harder to sustain moral individualism. A football fan who does not like heavy metal would not experience collective effervescence at a metal show, nor would the metalhead experience it at a football game. Durkheim discussed this issue in his study on the Arunta. He described how the Arunta recognized that they were all part of the same tribe and did not relate as well to Arunta from different clans. The ties that bind him to the tribe are slack and weak. Although the tribe is certainly not foreign to him, it is with the member of his clan that he has most in common, and it is the action of this group that he feels most immediately, and so prefers to express in religious symbols.
I don't really listen to that sort of style of music, you know what I'm talking about, the kind of thing they play at the dance clubs and whatnot. But when it bumps in the right way, there are certain people that just feel like they have to get out there and dance, and they dance in the way that's, I don't know, socially appropriate for that type of music, right? They go out and they, you know, drop it like it's hot, whatever. Well, it's socially appropriate to mosh, and it feels like the right way to go with it. I don't know if you can, you know, it's like I'm a musician, and it's not that I can't dance or couldn't dance if I wanted to, but when I hear music like that, like, you know, that drop it like it's hot and whatever, I don't feel that urge. I just don't, and if I did it, it would only be just to fit in with the crowd at the time, and I'm just okay, I guess I'm bouncing around to this, you know, crap. But it doesn't, I don't feel that urge. Other people do, you know, but I don't. You know, I'm more the kind that wants to start moving around when I hear metal music, and the way that I want to move is to bang my head and run into people in a mosh pit.
The problem presented is how do we maintain moral individualism in modern society which stretches between subcultures instead of just within them. The solution I present is the acknowledgement of the shared experience of collective effervescence. No matter what subculture you choose to plug yourself into, whether it has to do with music, religion, sports, movies, or whatever, everyone who belongs to a subculture experiences collective effervescence. The idea that the same heightened emotional state a metalhead feels at a concert may be the exact same heightened emotional state a parishioner feels during a worship service, or a football fan feels going to a football game, is a powerful realization. Let us dissect the statement quoted earlier from Durkheim. Totemism is the religion not of certain animals, men, or images, but of a kind of anonymous and impersonal force that is found in each of these beings, though identical with none. Collective effervescence is a force which lives through the very idea that we are social beings. It lives through us as we live through it. Each and every one of us, no matter what subcultures we claim to be a part of, possess a small portion of it and share it with one another. This force is so independent of the particular subject embodying it that it both pre-exists and survives them. It animates generations today just as it animated those of the past and will animate those to come. From the dawn of time, men have experienced collective effervescence. In societies of mechanical solidarity, it had much more power to hold people together because everyone experienced it in a single form. In organic solidarity, collective effervescence has gained the power to take on a multitude of forms and has become harder to recognize. However, it is the very same force which people experienced thousands of years ago, and it is the same force experienced 1,000 years from now. As long as we are all social beings, collective effervescence will continue to live through us and us through it. It is the God worshipped by every totemic cult, only it is an impersonal God, without a name, without a history. Collective effervescence is the exact same force that is tapped into by every subculture on the planet. Each subculture views this force through its own rose-colored glasses. However, it is the same force in and of itself. This very realization has the power to preserve moral individualism in modern society, because it allows people with their ever-increasing differences to recognize what they have in common, which is that we are all social beings, a part of the same social force. It was only 3 years ago that I started Sioux Falls Metal. Being a part of this subculture has helped me form my own individuality, and has helped me establish connections with people who share my love of metal music. They make me laugh, they're there for me when I'm sad, and have become my extended family. I hope that everyone, no matter who they are, finds similar situations in which they feel like they belong. I made this film as a tribute to all Sioux Falls metalheads, in the hopes that we could continue to grow and be recognized as a subculture. I've also made it to help fulfill Emil Durkheim's vision of a moral individualism in modern society. He died thinking his life had been a waste and that modernity was doomed to egoism. Little did he know that heavy metal, as well as many other subcultures in modernity, would form and keep the hope alive that we may not only experience individuality in modernity, but that we may also coexist as human beings through collective effervescence. Let us keep his great vision alive through our own individuality, as well as our respect of others and the recognition that we can only be ourselves in so much that others can be themselves. This should be the foundation on which we should continue forth into modernity.
Rated R for rock music. Don't be a pussy. But seriously, this film has strong language. Severe discretion is advised, motherfucker. Rated R for rock music. Don't be a pussy. Seriously, this music has strong language. Severe discretion is advised. That was really. Rated R for rock music. Don't be a pussy. But seriously, this film has strong language. So viewer discretion is advised. Fucker. Rated R for rock music. Don't. Rated R. We're good.
Can you break my guitar? You're dead. Be careful.
Just my hip and my belt.
Please be careful with that.
Okay. Yeah, it was just my hip.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready. Is it still recording?
Yeah, go.
Rated R for rock music. Don't be a pussy. This film, seriously, this film
Contains strong language.
Seriously, this film contains strong language. So don't fear. Seriously, this film contains strong language. So viewer discretion. Okay.
Shh, don't bounce my speakers. You probably could go.
Seriously, this film has strong. Seriously, this film has strong language. Severe discretion is advised, motherfucker.
Can you do it all at once?
I can't do it all at once. It's impossible.
Just
do it once, all at once. You're freaking Xena out, though.
Rated R for rock music, right?
Yeah. Don't be a pussy.
Rated R for rock music! Don't be a pussy! Seriously, this film is fudge. This film has bad language in it. What's this to say? This film? It's harder than you think. You want to get up here?
No.
You want to play the actor?
No, I've done it before.
This film has bad language in it.
This film has strong language.
Okay. Listen. This film has explicit language. No, that's way too big a word for a heavy metal person.
Okay, can you please just start from the beginning and say it all at once? Come on.
Explicit language. Yeah, please. That'd be awesome. You should do that. You should dub over my voice.
Todd, you should jump in front of Deb after he says the first part and say the second part. Do it. So just
I don't know if I can keep a straight face.
So Deb, when you do the first part, just freeze and let Todd jump in front of you.
I'm gonna laugh.
It's okay. It's okay. Ready?
3, 2, 1, go. Ours. How'd it go again?
Rated R for rock music.
Rated R for rock music. Don't be a pussy.
This film has explicit language. Viewer discretion advised.
Rated R for rock music. Don't be a pussy.
This film has explicit language. Viewer discretion is advised.